Well, first of all, thank you, Cody, and of course the Old Town Library, and especially all of you. This is such a wonderful turnout. I'm really honored and impressed, and it's very nice to be here. So I guess to jump right into it, I'm, as you already know, the author of On Harbor's Edge. This is book 2, and then book 1 was written previously, but they can be read in either order. But no pressure, but I'm gonna ask who might have read what book, because that'll help me know what to say or not say. So has anyone read or partially read book 1?
I'm so sorry, but I tried to get it out of this library and they didn't have it quite yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, no
Yeah.
apologies necessary.
Yeah, but
We'll
we-
make sure that they
Yeah.
have one.
We are dying to hear what you have to say, though.
Okay, great. Well, I'm guessing, I know one person started to read book 2, but sometimes, has anyone read book 2? Wow, okay, that's great, actually, because I was gonna start, this is the one has come out most recently, so last summer. But perhaps I should simply start with the first chapter of book 1, just to kind of get it going. There's one little square.
Are they both told on Harbor's Edge and then book 1 and book 2?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was actually talking to one of the participants earlier. I don't know about you guys, but when there's a book series, but you don't know, like, you don't realize it's a series,
Right.
or which one comes first, they all understandably have different names. I mean, that makes sense. Bernard Cornwell is like a prolific writer, and he has all these books, and they're so wonderful. You have to look up which one came first. So I decided to call each book On Harbor's Edge, but the subtitle shows book 1 and the dates. I think I probably could have, you see book 2, I wrote the subtitle larger.
Yeah.
Because I realized it's a little bit small. So that's why it kind of pops up. Trying to make it less confusing, but sometimes it has the one downside of a book with the main title being the same. But it's how it works. So maybe I'll read the first chapter of book 1, which takes place it'll come up early 1900s, 1912. And then I'll just answer any questions you might have, and if there's time, I can read.
All of you have iPads.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and can you hear me all right?
Have your phone.
It's a good room for that.
Well, I can work my iPad most of the time, but this phone, oh God, no.
Oh, and I guess one more thing I'll mention is it's definitely fiction, but it's historic fiction, so I worked quite hard to make sure the historic aspects were accurate, but all the characters are made up and all that. So, got to hurry this, Thaddeus Gale yelled. The warm June wind blew dark hair over his blue eyes. He steadied the boat with one hand, the other waving me forward. The cold Atlantic sloshing about his leather boots. I did not get into the boat. Don't seem too bad out there, ventured my father. My dear fellow, stay a while. Your family now, for Christmas' sake. Not here, other end. Cobblestone's gonna get hit, something fierce. There's a gale coming. Can't you smell it? No, dear me, no. I did not want to get into the boat. Then stay here the night, my man. A new son-in-law is most welcome. You're just rowing, by God. Mildred May needs to see her house. Yes, but my own father nearly wailed. I watched Pa kick a couple of stones, quiet. He stood on the very same spot where Thaddeus had proposed for the 5th time 7 months earlier, late November of 1911. My family and friends lined the sandy beach, the field beyond them windswept into waves. Mildred May Coombs gale, yelled Thaddeus. Storm's not going to wait for us. I eyed the vessel. Mother interrupted my silence. Mildred May, I know what you're thinking. He'll be fine. He's got himself a peapod. Seas don't pour over her stern, like what happened with Otto's Pa's boat. Mildred May, Thaddeus bellowed again. But I have never been away from my island, I shrieked. One more time, I'd like to offer my home, Pa tried. Thank you kindly, Thaddeus said, curt yet softer. Gotta go, now. Sorry about the reception. You all enjoy it for us. We will. My Pa was defeated. I do not even have time to change.
A good cup of coffee.
The outer layer of my wedding dress flapped in the breeze, thwacking like fresh sheets on a washing line. Even the short jacket covering my high-necked lace bodice blew about some, despite ribbons tying it together for modesty.
Still have some. Oh, I still have some one injuries.
My fancy swept-up hair fell apart in the
I
breeze.
did have a cup when I got up.
My
Oh.
carefully placed clips hanging at the ends. You look a vision in that dress, chirped Ma. Should wear it as long as you can.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Oh, yes.
Is she wearing the wedding dress in a skiff?
She is, and there actually is, I want to get back to that because the artist who did the cover did something really cool. Actually, I could jump right in and answer that.
Because that's pretty unusual to go off in a skiff with your wedding gown.
It is, and actually, I should have put books on. Do you see the front cover? She's in a pea pod, which pointy at both ends, and Thaddeus is rowing. She's, by the way, like in her early 30s. For early 1900s, that's on the older side for getting married, which is part of the story. But she's wearing her wedding dress, and so that's part of the drama, because she's going from one island to another.
Uh-huh.
But
understand her.
Scott Hewitt is the artist, and he actually painted this painting, then they used it for the cover, and he did such a beautiful job. But the first rendition of her was a little bit funny, like her hair was, I don't know, there's something odd about it. And I just mentioned her hair having it sort of not so sharp at the edges, and then he fixed it. It was really nice, but he actually was so serious about this cover that he borrowed somebody's pea pod, a neighbor's, and had it in his front of his house, and his wife, this is the artist's wife, wore her wedding dress and sat there so that he would be able to do it well. And I just thought that was so sweet. Yes.
So often you read books and you look at the cover and you think, whoever did this cover never read the book. So this is really cool to have it really relate.
Yeah, it does.
Not
And
only read it, she loaned her wedding dress.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I really like the way he tied, you needed a simple part on the spine, but it's actually tied here to the dory in the back. So, yeah, Scott Hewitt. He sometimes does the paintings for the Lobster Festival posters. I really like his style. So, yes, so you look a vision in that dress, chirped Ma. Should wear it as long as you can. Turn some captains' heads if you meet up with anyone crossing Silver Bay. Some cunin you are. I grabbed Ma's elbow and pulled her away from Thaddeus and the rest of my family. My ivory gown dragging over seaweed-covered rocks, staining its delicate edges a light orange. When we reached a small spruce on the upper edge of the shore, I whined, I do not know what to do. My ma, stunning in a bright yellow dress, tied at the waist with a thick pink bow, lit up with a grin. Don't you worry none. Mr. Gale will teach you everything you need to know. Comes naturally, you'll see. What if I do not see? Trust me, you will. Trust me, for my mom meant end of conversation. I lifted the dress above my rubber boots and entered the water. I had never been in a boat, never been off my island. My new husband took off his wedding coat and tie, still dashing in a crisp white shirt and black slacks. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing sun-darkened muscles honed from hauling lobster traps since he was a boy. Good heavens, perhaps Ma was right. I got into the stern, which promptly settled to the bottom. The bow bobbed like a tether horse trying to get free. Too heavy, get out, Thaddeus ordered. I climbed out, not bothering to hold up my dress. Thaddeus and my two uncles pushed the Peapod deeper as I followed, one hand on the gunwale. Pa dashed into the water and held me steady. In thigh-deep seas, with my dress billowing about, I could not get into the boat. My feet stung in that icy water as if stabbed with a knife, and the dress was hung up on something. My father, shorter than me, was of no use. I looked about, not sure what to do, but Thaddeus pushed Pa aside, grabbed the dress, and with a firm yank, freed it from the keel. He then thrust one arm into the ocean under my knees, placed the other at my back, and lifted swiftly. The man dropped me into the boat, not in gentle fashion. The vessel shook, and then she floated. I held the jagged tear in the train of my dress for a moment, and then took off my boots to pour out that cold ocean. Got to hurry this, he commanded again. My uncles tied the dory's painter to the Peapod's stern. Pa had given us that scrapper of a boat when he saw that my belongings would not all easily fit in Thaddeus's. A gaggle of friends and family waved so madly, it seemed their arms might fly right off to their shoulders. Got to go, Mrs. Gale. Finish your goodbyes. I waved. Pa wiped a tear as he backed into shallower water, not taking his eyes off me. Ma positively glowed. I could not find my sister, Julia. We set out, sun high overhead, hampered by the dory, weighted with trunks. A few more distant byes and good lucks, and the crowd headed off to enjoy my wedding cake and to talk about us. My youngest brother lagged behind. 4-year-old Foster waved, his other hand in his pocket. I smiled, waved back, and blew him a kiss. The kiss hit his freckly face, and he stepped back with its imagined strength. I laughed, took a deep breath, blew him a pile more with 2 hands, and watched him fall over when they struck. Foster stood up with a grin, followed by tears. He wiped away with his forearm. Julia ran out of the woods then, kneeled, and hugged him. She rose, took his hand, then both turned and chased after the others. Julia looked back for just the briefest of moments, and it was my turn to cry. Aside from, or in addition, or aside from the wedding dress, any questions so far? I'm all yours.
Beautiful detail.
Oh,
I mean, you can just picture it. You're there. I felt that cold, icy water in my boots. Oh, yeah.
Oh, thank you for that.
And the
Yeah.
dress clinging to her leg, trying to move around in a boat,
Yeah,
just amazing.
I know. Can you imagine being in the water with all that?
Yeah.
Just the weight. It kind of stresses me out as far as if the water was deeper, you
I
know.
wonder if she was having second thoughts already.
Probably.
Can you give us some background on when you started writing and when all of this came about, or why?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It goes way back. Let me see. Actually, this one, this first one was published in 2020, and to be honest, which is horrifying in a way, but I guess not unusual, it took me 10 years to write. Now, I was doing a lot of other things. I was working full-time and raising 2 children and all that. But when I realized from start to finish, that's how long it took. I mean, it took probably a full year and a half, once it was completed, to go through the publishing process. That takes kind of more time than you expect, but it's worth it. You don't really want to rush it. That's part of the reason I got really nice artists for the cover, etc. And you'd be surprised. I used to write for newspapers, just freelance, and I had this rule that if I wrote something and I read it through completely and there was even one tiny spelling typo, that I would put it away and the next day look at it again. And I'm talking about 500 to 800 word newspaper articles. So I kept the same rule with the book. And you go through the whole thing, and you have professional editors go through the whole thing. You're very much at the end, they find 3 tiny little typos or a date doesn't match up. I'm like, oh, start the process over. Not, and until you read it 3 times. So that editing process takes months and months and months, and you have to leave a little time between. Otherwise, it's too fresh in your head and you read the same mistake, not realizing it's an error. So actually, I digressed a little bit. So that's why it took so long. But the reason I would say I started is that I used to live in a house that kind of looked like that. And it was on a harbor. And it was it's like many other harbors in Maine. And this Hale Harbor is its own place, it's made up. But I was very busy with everything, but every time I looked out the window, I would see, not in a hallucinatory way, but in my mind, I would see people from 100 years ago fishing in the harbor, the old boats, a bigger population. As you probably know, Maine Islands are really sparsely populated now. There's only 13 or 14, depending on how they're counted, that have year-round populations. But back then, there were a lot more populated islands with 50 people on them now used to have hundreds. And so I could just see all this going on. And somebody once asked me, well, why 100 years ago? And I thought, well, that's a good question. I think even though I'm younger than 100 years, I could imagine that far back with things, photographs and things I had seen and knew about the fishing history in particular, how lobsters were caught with, hoop nets sometimes, and then later the wooden traps. But it was hard for me to imagine, to be honest, further back than that. So, and plus there's a lot that goes on, of course, in the early 1900s.
Are you, excuse me, are you from Maine originally, or?
No, I'm from Vermont originally, and then ironically, because I ended up having a big career in and with China, my grandparents lived in China, Maine for my whole life. So we would visit my grandparents in China, Maine every summer, and then start visiting the islands. But I didn't move out to the islands as a year-rounder until 2003 or 2005, depending on how you look at those 2 dates, basically. Yeah. So I'm one of the transplants. What do they call it? From away. Transplant. We're all in the category.
But we do accept Vermont. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
At least in England.
Yeah.
I read something about a mermaid's purse.
Oh, yes.
I'm just curious what that is.
Oh, yeah. I think there's a picture, I hope, of one. Oh, yes. Here, I'll just, hopefully I'll just give this to you, but, so you can see. It's really a skate. It's a skates, what do you call it?
Exact thing?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's where the little baby skates are born out, but the casual term is a mermaid's purse. And this part is true. When I was a little kid coming out to Maine, you have certain memories when you're little that just are really ingrained, and it's funny, you don't know why. Others, I forget for some reason. But I remember finding the skates egg AKA Roommate's Purse, on a beach, and it was so magical to me. That really hooked me. I think I was maybe 7 years old. So I think that reference is in the little bio on the first book.
Were there real people that inspired you with characters?
That's a good question. Not like individually, there's nobody in the book that's exactly a person, but like a lot of writers of fiction, a lot of the characters in the book are combinations of people I might have known in lifetime. I mean, Thaddeus, for example, I have a friend from college who dated a guy, and some of the way he was is kind of in there, and you know, the fishing background, there's all that, but and then actually my husband's grandmother, I never met her, but she was a really strong woman for so many reasons, and so I would say part of her is a bit in Mildred May as well. So.
It's funny you mentioned about having visions of how people were there in the olden days and stuff. I sometimes get that vision when I go by an old train station.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a suggestion for another book.
Yeah.
Train stations and people coming on and off, and
Yeah.
where they're going and why.
You're right. No, that's a good idea, because in the next one, there's a little side trip, and I ended up having a horse-drawn trolley in there, which I really had to do a lot of research for, because I didn't have much of a concept, but
Yeah.
the dates.
Yeah.
And yeah, the train.
Yeah.
I have to keep going.
What, yeah.
Yeah,
Different modes of transportation.
Exactly.
Boats to trains.
yeah, yeah. Any other questions?
Do you have ideas for other books or?
Yes, I do. Actually, I mean, this one, well, the good news is, while this one took me 10 years, this only took 5, and that included publishing. I am working on the third one, and it's going a little bit slower than I had wanted. I picked up a new, unplanned but surprising job that started last fall that I absolutely love, but it's also very encompassing. So I'm teaching languages at the North Haven Community School. And so, of course, I was like, oh, I'll just, write every morning before I go to school. Guess what? It doesn't happen very often. So that's a definite. I'm definitely going to get the third one out, and I think then it'll be a 1, 2, 3 series. I've had other ideas for books more on the nonfiction side that I haven't quite been able to wrap my head around, but I think some of you have ideas for books. Sometimes just, you have them in your head, and then the right time comes and then you can do it. That would be my advice. So we'll see.
Do you have a process that you use, some kind of outline or?
Oh, yeah, that's a cool question. I do. The quick answer is yes. The process was different for each of these. So for the first one, as I mentioned, I, kind of just imagined these people, and they kind of, this sounds strange, I realize, but sometimes they created themselves, and most of my writing would happen when I was on a walk. And the dialogue, I didn't even plan. I would just have like 2 women sitting shelling peas, and then what their discussion came up. Now, obviously, when I got maybe to a certain point, I had to go back and edit and change things because we were stuck down at the end of the hallway and couldn't get out, type of thing. But that's how I did the first one. It was really, and I've read, and a lot of writers said, oh, you need an outline and all this. But that kind of took the fun out of it for me. I really didn't want an outline. I wanted to see where it went. Now, it went all the way to an ending, and then I ended up changing the ending. Susan Connolly was my editor, and she said, that ending is not quite there. I said, yeah, you're right. And so, there are major changes, but that was how this one was done. But then, because I had the characters really established, oh, and the other thing I did, which was advice from a really good writer, again, Susan Connolly, is if you're writing something and you have a bunch of characters that are made up, they're not nonfiction that you're looking up from historical documents, just write their biographies without any thought. And I did that when I was about a third of the process through. And that was very helpful because I just sat down and just whatever popped into my head, they were born where and what were they doing and how did they come to be and then all this and siblings. And it really helped create who they were, and it was fun to do.
Well,
Yeah.
you also find sometimes that the character is telling you what should or might happen.
Yes, definitely. And that biography exercise helped because it kind of like, well, why did so-and-so do this? Oh, it's because they had that experience as a kid, and it just, it naturally would evolve in that way. And then but because I had already had the character set, I had more of an outline, just a rough outline for this one. I knew the dates, and you knew the major events of those dates that were global. So those two events, World War I and the pandemic of 18 had a major impact, of course. So that was more outlined, but not precisely. Yeah, I still left a lot of room for dialogue. Yeah.
Did you know the ending before you ever started writing? And if so, did that ending change as you worked your way through writing it?
Good question. The quick answer again is no. I didn't know the ending, but well, I should change that answer because it's a little different. I didn't know the ending for this one, and then I did change it because the ending I originally had was too crazy, I guess I'd say. And then this one, I had a general idea of the ending, but I adjusted it quite a bit. And when I was talking about that editing process, I edited the last chapter like a lot, but I ended up really loving the last chapter, and I got a lot of good feedback on that, so it was worth the extra effort. I think if I recall that whole process of writing the last chapter, I think I had a final edit, so-called final edit, and then put it away, and then 6 times over 6 months went back to it, and then you can kind of, you feel it when it's there. It's like you can just tell. So that's what happened. And the third book, to answer your question, this is kind of weird. I mean, it's because it's the same characters and the same area, but on the third book, I have the beginning and the ending written. And so, back to your question about the process, yours about the ending, I really like the ending, and I like the beginning. Now I have to get from point A to point B. If that middle part doesn't work, I'll have to rethink. But so actually, that's a long-winded answer, but all 3 books were written in a different way. I've heard like famous writers like James Patterson and just a lot of the very prolific writers, they have a formula, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's impressive. They have the arc and a formula, and they get the characters, and then they have the challenge, and I really admire that, and that makes sense. I just haven't done mine as structured as that, just to see what they tell me.
Do you come up with your plot entirely alone, or do you brainstorm with a friend about how might this go, or?
Yeah, that's a cool question. It's entirely from me, with the exception of when I had an editor look at the book for plot and content, not just a copy editor of making sure the apostrophes are in the right place. And then she gave me good advice. She didn't say you must change this, but she said this is not quite working here, that reminds me, for example, when I first wrote this, I had a whole bunch of kids in the harbor. And she's like, oh, that's too many. It was too many names to remember. And that was very good advice, and it changed the plot because there were fewer characters. But I know when I read other books, if there are too many characters, it gets just, the worst thing you can say is it gets annoying because I can't remember who's and why and et cetera. So I pared it down. So a little bit of plot helped, but most of it was for me, yeah. Anything else? Oh,
Do you think if you had a real structure for writing your book and like, you know, you have to write so much and you have to do this and do that, do you think it would take some of the enjoyment away for you? Is that just not your style?
yeah, both. It would definitely, I mean, for a while I was feeling guilty because I was reading things, but you just must sit in a chair for 4 hours. And yeah, I mean, I can't even sit in a chair for 4 hours, let alone be creative and write. And but even a shorter time was not necessarily, it's more the quality of time as opposed to the quantity of time. So, at some point, I decided not to worry about the rules. And part of it, well, this is a double-edged sword because Main Authors Publishing is a great publisher and they're kind of a hybrid. It's not 100% self-publishing. They screen the authors in the books, but it's on your schedule. It's self-publishing and that, you know, I pay for the printing and things like that. So the great thing is I'm not really on a deadline. But that, sometimes I think, oh, it'd be good if I was on a deadline with a, you know, advance from a publisher or something like that. But every time I write, I'm having fun. Like 100% of the time while I'm writing, I'm enjoying it. And if I'm not physically writing, I do it on the computer, I'm thinking about it and I'm taking a walk and I'm thinking of a plot. So to me, it's not at all work, and it's fun. And I'm sure if I said, okay, I must write 1 chapter a day, it would take all the fun out of it. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna do what works for me.
So in your stages of life, did you know, for example, like in elementary school, that you loved writing little stories then, and did that carry forward through your different stages?
Well, that's an interesting question. Actually, growing up, I always dreamed of being a National Geographic photographer. As I got older, I really, and I still do, and I don't know why I want this because it seems like such a horrible thing, but I really am attracted to war photography. I mean, I don't like what is seen in war, but I just feel like it's so important, and to get the right photograph that's accurate, because we all know from World War II with the, you know, sometimes photographs are staged, you know, in war, or something is missing in the photo because it's been cut off and it completely changes the meaning. So I'm still attracted, but I'm kind of aging out of such a physically, there's so much physical requirements needed to be a war photographer. So not really writing as much, but I always liked writing in school. And then in college, I wrote for the college newspaper, and I really enjoyed that. So for a while, I was thinking of becoming a reporter. And I've done freelance work and such, nonfiction or fiction, not really fiction reporting, but more evergreen articles and or events and talking about what happened at the event. But I actually can't remember when I guess I decided to try for a whole book when I started seeing all the characters and that kind of thing. Yeah. Any other questions?
So, yes.
Go ahead. Oh, start with you, I guess.
So it says here you travel in the Middle East, Europe, and North America, all these places. Are there characters that you've made up from being in
Oh.
these areas?
Oh, that's a cool question. No, the characters are all, I'm thinking as I'm answering to make sure. I mean, certainly people I've met around the world might be part of the character, but the characters are all, they're very traditional Mainers for the most part. All that travel was my former life or different careers in business. I've spent 12 years living in China over the past 40. So I did a lot of work in China, business, government, and then most recently for the United Nations. But when I say recently, that was 2017. It seems like yesterday, but it's actually almost 10 years ago now. And that's where that's where that came from.
China must have been very interesting.
Very,
Yeah.
yeah. My first time in China was 1982. And as you might know, or maybe you've been, it's so different now. Very, very different.
Yeah.
You had a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you were maybe ever inspired to maybe think about doing a children's book. Because I read about you were really well traveled and you just seem to have this rich inner, you know, how you view things, like looking at a place and seeing the past. I mean, would you ever consider doing a children's book?
Well, thank you. That's very generous of you, and I don't have a secure idea in my head yet, but I would love to do that, and or middle school. You know, there's a book by Eugene Poole. He published it last summer called I need to get the title correct. Fly Away Home, I believe. Anyway, it's got a blue cover. It's illustrated by Stephen Condanza. They're both from North Haven. So you might think, oh, you're biased. They're your buddies from North Haven. I read this book. I love him. My favorite book of all time is My Side of the Mountain, which is, you know, basically middle school's book. But because Jean Craighead George, she just drops you in the middle of this wilderness and you just feel like you're there, and it feels like a nonfiction book. Well, Eugene Poole's book is definitely not nonfiction because the heron and the osprey talk to each other. So obviously it's made up, it's animals and such. But within his book, he has really nice messages. It's almost going to make you choke up, but it's metaphoric messages about growing up and leaving home and what's ahead. And that's so embarrassing. It doesn't take much. But so sometimes I think if I could do it well, is have some kind of story helping, like you said, either the younger ones or the middle school age, with a touching story like that to help them have confidence and feel that they can handle this world ahead, which is not an easy thing. Oh, thank you. Well, it's nice to hear you say that. And you can imagine the islands are just full of potential opportunity. I mean, you could just take a little crab coming off the shore and having an adventure with a dog buddy. I mean, it's just like 1,000 ideas you could have. You just have to get the right one.
I think it was 207 Maine last night that I saw the woman that wrote the book on the boy. He didn't have hands, didn't have limbs. And she wrote about the crab hand or something like that.
I missed that, really.
Yeah, it was really good because she thought that all of these children, whether the limbs were one shorter than the other or whatever.
Yeah.
And she wrote really good books with really good illustrations on that.
Yeah, that's
And same thing, building the confidence of the middle schooler,
right.
bullying,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they go through a lot.
Yeah.
And life is not getting any less complicated, so, yeah. Well, that's a really nice example. And there's some really lovely nonfiction examples, like Virginia Oliver. Have you heard of Virginia Oliver? She's she passed away recently at 105. She was the oldest. Yeah,
I've got the books.
Yeah, I'm sure your library has it. Yeah, there's
Lost
a
Lady.
really lovely children's book
We have that
about
book.
her.
Yeah.
And I never met her. I
think it's
wish
called
I
Lost
had, but she I mean, she lobster fished
Mhm.
into her hundreds.
She's in the Down East magazine too.
Doing it,
Yeah.
even just like last year, I think.
Pardon?
I think she was still doing it up until she passed away.
Yeah, pretty much. I heard that she had so many speaking engagements that she had kind of not fished quite as much in her last year, but I mean, my goodness.
Can you blame her?
know. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, look.
And there's lots of lobster fishermen, the ones I know are guys who impressively, you know, they fish into their mid-80s and such. I mean, fishing is really hard.
It's a whole thing on
I did
TikTok.
2 seasons of lobster fishing, so I know how hard the work is. And, but she just, I mean, her son was in his 70s or 80s, and he was her discernment. I mean, just, you know, most
He
of the
wanted to
stories.
retire, but he said, I can't retire.
Before my
blah, blah,
mom.
blah."
Yeah, it's really.
Well, she taught everybody that there's, you know, about aging. I mean,
Right,
just because, you know, sometimes people think, okay, you're 50 or 60, you have to be done. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You do you. You
Right,
know.
exactly. And if that's not you, that's okay too. Like,
Right.
not everyone has to fish in, I mean, I couldn't do it now, I'm in 60s, but
I
like,
think if you're inspired
Exactly.
and you want to do something.
yeah, just do it.
So I think you got a story in you for a kid's book. I do.
Okay. That sounds good, thank you.
Have you had a character speak to you about an aspect of the book or something you think he or she could do? I mean, I don't mean realistically, but
Mhm.
you wake up after a nap or you hear it in a dream or something and the character is actually giving you ideas.
Oh, yeah, I must say, that's really fun when that happens. Yeah, when you're really deep into it and you dream something. I keep a little notebook by my bed because, you know, it's easy to forget by the time you actually wake up for good. But I've had, like there a couple of my favorite characters are Oris and Lucy, who are these kids in this book, and they kind of came to me in a dream in terms of something that could happen, and then I wrote it down and then put part of that in, things like that.
Have they ever argued with you about how they think their life should go?
Oh, that's actually, that's an interesting question. I can't remember a dream like that where we're arguing, but definitely I had conflict with Thaddeus in both books, and I think some readers do too. He is not a very nice character, and just full warning, I have had a couple readers who said I couldn't finish the book because I don't like this word, but I hated Thaddeus so much, and he does bring out a lot of emotion, good or bad, but a lot bad. And I actually took this as a compliment. I was at my house one day and a woman came by walking and I didn't know her. And she just yelled, "Thaddeus is such a," and then she it was a weird compliment because I realized, well, at least, you know, I mean, you want that with characters that they create emotion. Now, I don't want to give anything away, but I hope, the other thing I mean, there's some serious subjects that are addressed in the fiction that happen in real life. At the same time, and I've had, thankfully, I was glad to hear that some reviewers say there's humor sprinkled within the book, so it's not all just, I believe it seems for most people enjoyable to read, and if you hang in there with that, there's some, lighter moments and some glimmers of hope that happen, so there's that.
We're all Maine women, and we all have a Thaddeus.
Yes, see, there you go, yeah.
Or we all know one.
Or, yeah,
Yeah.
and or part of one, or, yeah, thank you for that. That's actually, I feel that's actually quite important. True.
How do you decide on your characters' names? Do you do any research behind them, or does it just come to you?
Definitely, I love that question. Of course, I did a little bit more research for the first one, and then I did have some additional names for the second. And I visited cemeteries around Maine to look for some very old names. So that was, I got a pile of names that way. I did also read some from historical societies in a couple islands, some, older journals, diaries, letters, and what kind of names popped up. And I tried to get some really solid, traditional, Maine names that are quite old, but not have all of them be that way. I also had to be careful not to have every name be difficult to remember. I wanted to have some things that were, not, because that's another thing. I've read books where every name is something very, it's like, every name is Greek or something like that. It's very hard for me to remember. And then after doing that, I had to go in and make sure that, especially with the main characters, I just didn't randomly, by some chance, have the same name as somebody famous in the world that did something. So I ended up rejecting quite a few names because they just popped up as being problematic. And then there were some names I just really like. Like, I love the name Zebediah, and it's a very nice name, and it's an older name. But Zebediah, I know a Zebediah, and he's my son's classmate, so I didn't, I took that name out because, something happened to that kid, and I'm like, I'm not gonna, of course it's not him, it's just the name. But except for in cases of John and some basic names, I made sure not to use any name of somebody I knew personally, even though the character had nothing to do with them. It just felt odd that way. And Thaddeus, actually, I don't know any Thaddeus. And this is a little bit of a private joke, not fully private, but the only Thaddeus I know in my lifetime is when I was younger, I had a pet skunk. And his name was Thaddeus. I've always loved the name. And actually, Thaddeus the skunk, the non-human little skunk, he was decented. My mother got him for me as a pet. He was a great pet. He was a really nice little guy, Thaddeus. But it did create some fun, because you're not in my family, how would you know I had a skunk? But there is one piece of dialogue that I was just writing the dialogue, and somebody was mad at Thaddeus, and I just couldn't help myself. I said, Thaddeus is such a skunk.
Yeah.
So that goes back to your question. That's how Thaddeus' name stuck. But especially since he's a bad guy, I wouldn't have wanted to name Thaddeus after, or just I wouldn't want him to have the name Zebediah or something like that, because Zeb would be like, oh, that's insulting.
Like, what are you saying about me?
Yeah, exactly. Which, just a name, but you never know. Yeah. I know, I feel sorry for people who, they've been a certain name forever, and then somebody becomes famous in some horrible way, and then they have the same name. It's just luck of the draw, not their fault, but I wanted to avoid doing that if I could. Although it's just fiction, it's not real life either.
Thank everybody for coming in today. Kate has some books here. If anybody is interested in picking up a copy, feel free to grab some luncheon if you would like some extra luncheon. There's a ton still left.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank all of you. This is so fun, and you're all still Happy Valentine's Day and Happy New Year of the Horse.
Right.
Yes.
The fire horse.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. I didn't even know they had elements.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but it happened for 60 years.
Well, I was
That's what
making
they
a
said.
joke with you earlier that they all happen every 60 years because 12 times
That's
6,
true.
12 times 5 is 60.
I think fireworks.
I never heard of fireworks. Apparently, I'm a metal horse.
Your metal horse.
I'm a metal horse. I did not know that was a thing. Yeah, whatever your Chinese zodiac is also goes with an element.
Right,
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, there's 5 elements.
Exactly.
I thought that was nifty. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.